I came tonight and I was not going to tell, but the bouncers begged me to. So I scrolled through my Facebook photos and I found this Facebook album titled My 5-Hour Stump Removal, and then I added the Emotional Odyssey part tonight because that's what it was. So this was a couple of years ago, and I had decided to remove a stump from the backyard of the place I was living at because I wanted to build a garden, and the stump was in the middle of where my garden was supposed to go. And I went into it with a lot of optimism. I had a shovel, one of the flat square ones. I don't know what it's called. Spade? Yeah, it wasn't angled, it was flat. It was not a snow shovel, it was metal. Snow shovels are metal sometimes. Can you tell I came up with this story just now? I had a metal square shovel and one of those ice pick things I thought might be helpful. I found them in the basement at the house I was living at that time. And I was really optimistic because the stump looked fairly small. And I was a recent college grad, so I was excited about the world. I was ready to go out and do things and use my skills, and this was kind of like a metaphor for that. My opportunity to take this stump out of the ground. But as many of you may know, stumps are a lot like icebergs in that there is a lot more of them underground than above ground. So what appeared to be a small stump was very, very large, in fact. But I was hopeful, so I went at it and I was very excited, and then I had this bright idea. My roommate had this really big truck, and so I texted him and I was like, hey, do you want to come help me remove this stump from the ground? And he did not respond. But he was like a real guy's guy. He was in the police academy at the time. He worked out a lot. So I texted him, I bet your truck can't pull this stump out of the ground. And he showed up like 10 seconds later. But unfortunately, he did not have a chain or rope to attach to the stump, and he had to go to work, so that method didn't work. And at this point, I'd probably been working for about an hour trying to just shovel dirt away from around the stump, and I was starting to feel real hopeless. And this felt like a real metaphor for my life at the time. I had just reached the end of the grace period on all of my student loans. So I was about to start making those payments, and I had been let go from a job, and now I was working for like $10 an hour and selling apartments. So it felt really hopeless, but I thought if I could remove this stump from the ground, then at least I could do that. So I continued. And I made some progress. With the ice pick, I managed to pull away one kind of chunk on the side, and it was a pretty sizable chunk, so that felt pretty good. And I was optimistic again, and then on hour 3, I'd managed to pull a lot of dirt out, but I still had the main stump thing there. I don't know, I'm not an arborist. Yeah. I don't know about trees that well. But so I had this giant stump, and the reason I couldn't get it out was because my shovel wasn't very sharp, but also because it had a lot of roots traveling out the side of it, attaching it to the ground surrounding it. So I ran inside and got a serrated kitchen knife. so that I could saw away at the, which at first did not work. But after an hour or so, I did make it through a small pencil-sized root. It was a success. What are we at, like hour 4? I don't It was a really long day. I had blisters on my hands. Most of what I was doing was, at this point, was just taking the ice pick and slamming it into the roots as hard as I could, hoping that they would break. Let's see what else happened. It was later. Oh, actually, I just remembered something that happened. An old, probably pretty drunk man came over to see what I was doing. He smelled very strongly of gin, and he shook my hand. And then he asked me for some of that moonshine water. I don't know what that means. I think it's like an alcohol drug thing. Whatever. I was kind of scared, so I went inside for a little bit. And then he walked away, and then I went back to it. It was a nice break for me. That didn't happen at hour 4. It happened earlier sometime. Timelines are kind of sketchy for me right now. But I did manage to get the main part of the stump out of the ground, and then I just figured that was good enough and that my plants could grow just fine with the leftover dead roots that were in the surrounding area. And then I went to Hoo Hot and ate a lot of noodles.